Warning: intense medical seizure is portrayed. Love you. Did Tate just say love you to her or to his lover? No, he hung up before I could tell. My heart, my chest, it feels like it's being twisted in a vice. He just said love you, and it didn't sound like him teasing. It sounded different, real, tender, but for whom? I chewed my lip, trying to process the chaos in front of me. Tate. He's untouchable, he's terrifying, obsessed, protective, and yet, he just winked at me and said those words with a softness I've never seen before. My stomach, it's twisting in ways I don't understand, and my brain, I can't think straight. I shouldn't care about this. I shouldn't even want to be here watching him like this, and yet, I can't look away. 1,000 questions spiraled through my mind. Who was on the phone? One of his lovers? Another distraction? And why did he look like that when he said, love you? Was it me he was softening for, or just the game, or is it something I'll never understand? I press my hands against my face, trying to slow my racing thoughts. This is the man I sleep next to, the one I trust in ways I can't even explain, and yet, he has this other life. Lovers, danger, power, and I'm caught in it. I feel it all. The jealousy, the fear, the pull of wanting him entirely and knowing I can't. Knowing I might never understand it, and still, I don't want to leave, I don't want to look away. I froze as Tate hunched over, pressing his hands to his mouth and then violently throwing up on the floor. My stomach twisted, but more than that, a spike of panic hit me. Tate, he's actually sick. He leaned forward on his knees, the motion unsteady, like the floor beneath him might swallow him whole. I'm okay, he said quickly, voice tight, almost defensive. Must be my lunch. But I could see the tension in his shoulders, the tremor in his hands. This wasn't casual, not for Tate. I swallowed hard, my thoughts spinning. He's always untouchable, fierce, in control, and now he's human, vulnerable, and it terrifies me. Here, I said, stepping closer carefully. Lean on me, let me help. My voice was softer than I meant. I wasn't sure he'd let me, but I couldn't just watch him like this. I helped him into bed. He was weak and needed help. I nodded, feeling a knot of worry tighten in my chest as he rested his head against me. His face looked pale, almost too delicate, and it made something ache inside me. This is Tate, the unshakable Tate. And here he is, human, fragile, trusting me enough to rest on me. I'm glad you're here, I whispered softly, my hand brushing his hair back from his forehead. His fingers trailed lazily over my stomach, a light, almost absent-minded touch that somehow sent warmth through me. Even like this, he's aware of me. Even like this, he's tethered to me and I'm tethered to him. I feel better now, he murmured, voice low, almost shy in its vulnerability. Been a little nauseous all day. There was no trace of his usual fire in the tone, only honesty. I could feel the tension in his shoulders ease slightly against me, the storm behind his eyes dimming just enough for me to breathe a little easier. I shifted slightly, adjusting so he could be more comfortable. His head felt heavy, but not in a burdening way, more like a fragile weight I wanted to hold carefully. I traced circles on his back with my fingers, feeling a weird, grounding sense of intimacy. He's not demanding, he's not threatening, he's just here, and I can just be here with him. You've been holding it in, haven't you? I asked gently, my thumb brushing over his arm. All day, all week, I can feel it. Your body's been telling me everything before your words could. Tate let out a weak, genuine laugh. Maybe, or maybe I just like resting here, he murmured, nuzzling into my chest. The warmth of his hair brushing my collarbone, fingers tracing lightly, made my chest ache unexpectedly. He's the most dangerous, consuming person I know, and right now he's trusting me, letting me be the anchor. I sighed, resting my head against his, letting the sound of his shallow breathing fill the space. I could stay like this forever, just us, silent, untouchable by this strange connection. Nothing else matters, not school, money, or chaos, just this, just him. Thank you, I whispered, almost to myself, unsure if I meant for him or for the universe that allowed this. He didn't reply, only shifted slightly, his fingers brushing again over my stomach, faint reassurance in that soft motion. And in that quiet, intimate stillness I realized something terrifying and beautiful. Even pale, even fragile, even human, Tate still held me. He still tethered me to him, not with obligation, not with lust or love in the conventional sense, but with something deeper, something unnameable, and I would never let go. I woke with a start to a guttural scream that ripped through the darkness of my room. My heart slammed against my ribs before I even realized what was happening. Tate had fallen off the bed. On the floor he was twisting violently, his body flailing as if something inside him had taken over. No, 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 my breath hitched. He's choking, he's suffocating, he's dying, he's mine, I can't lose him. Tate, Tate, I yelled, shaking him, desperate for a flicker of awareness. His face was red, eyes squeezed shut, lips trembling as if he couldn't breathe. The sounds he made weren't human, they were raw, guttural, animalistic, full of pain and panic. He thrashed against the floor, hands clawing at the carpet so violently his nails tore, leaving streaks of blood. I tried to roll him over, his body twisted, spasming uncontrollably. "Focus on me, Tate, please look at me," I shouted, panic tightening my chest, but he was beyond reach. He screamed my name, calling for me over and over. "Noah, help, please." My chest constricted. He trusts me, he's calling for me, he's mine, I can't make this stop. His limbs jerked in unnatural ways, his toes curled, fingers flailed, arms beating the air like he was fighting invisible chains. He fell onto his stomach again, gasping, choking on his tongue, saliva foaming at the corners of his mouth. I tried to lift him gently, pressing his head to the side, but his body flopped with the force of a wild animal. "Oh God, I can't, he's too strong. He's too fragile." "Tate, you're safe, you're here, you're alive, I'm here," I cried, tears stinging my eyes. He clawed at the floor again, scraping the carpet, nails tearing, his screams cutting into my chest like knives. My hands shook, trying to anchor him, trying to hold him steady. Hold on, Tate, don't leave me, don't leave me." And then it happened. His body convulsed violently, spasm after spasm, until I realized with horror. He was having an orgasm mid-seizure, muscles tensing uncontrollably, trembling, and his body froze for a second before collapsing in exhaustion. His eyes rolled back, limbs stiff, paralyzed. My stomach churned. No, don't let him go, not like this. He's alive, stay alive." Tate lost control of his bladder, he peed himself. The smell hit me, but I couldn't recoil. I couldn't think of anything else besides keeping him with me. His lips quivered, murmuring broken pleas. "No, Noah, help." His body twitched violently even as consciousness slipped. His breathing was shallow, irregular, and I felt helpless. Why is this happening? Why isn't he waking up? I grabbed my phone with shaking hands. 911, please come quickly, my buddy, he's having a seizure, he fell off the bed, he's paralyzed, he can't breathe. My voice cracked, my words tumbling in panic. Someone, anyone, save him, he's mine, I can't survive losing him. He tried to speak again. "No, Noah, Pape." My chest tightened painfully. "I'll never leave you, never, not now, not ever." I held him tightly, pressing him against me, my hands trembling, trying to stabilize him. "I'm right here, Tate, you're alive, stay with me, don't leave me." The convulsions continued relentlessly, his arms flailing, his legs jerking, his head turning from side to side. He seemed possessed, something alien moving through him. My hands clutched at his shoulders, trying to anchor him. I can't control it. I can't protect him fast enough. Just survive, please, just survive. He screamed again, raw and guttural, over and over, almost like a wounded animal, a sound that seared itself into my chest. He was thrashing so violently I feared he'd break himself. I pressed closer, wrapping my arms around him as best I could. "You're safe, I've got you, breathe, Tate, fight, I'm here, I'm not leaving." Then almost as suddenly his body convulsed into another involuntary climax, muscles trembling, teeth clenching. He collapsed, completely limp for a moment, eyes rolling back. "No, stay with me, please, don't leave." His entire body was twitching, paralyzed, and I felt my chest constrict with terror and helplessness. I whispered frantically, "Tate, it's okay, I'm right here, you're alive, stay with me, stay with me." His murmurs were broken, incomprehensible, almost like he was trying to speak through the chaos in his body. "No, Noah, don't." My hands were shaking violently, I couldn't stop holding him, I couldn't step back. Finally, the sound of sirens pierced the night, my heart leapt. Help is coming, help is coming. EMTs burst into the room, commands sharp and precise. "Step back, clear space." I froze, eyes locked on him, tears streaming. "Don't take him from me, he's mine, I can't survive this without him." They lifted him gently onto the stretcher, but I stayed close, hovering, hands ready to reach for him if he twitched or fell. He's alive, I've got him, I can't lose him." "Sir, please, step back," an EMT said firmly, but I barely registered it. "I won't let anything happen to him, he's alive, stay alive, Tate, please." Tate's eyelids fluttered, a faint moan escaped him. "No, Noah," my hands shook as I touched his face, brushing back damp hair. "I'm here, Tate, I haven't left, I won't leave, you're safe, you're mine, stay with me." Even as they wheeled him out of the blue mansion, I whispered to the empty room, "Stay alive, come back to me, I'm not letting go, not ever." And in that suffocating, terrifying night, I realized how fragile he was, how human, and how utterly mine. I would protect him with everything I had, even if it destroyed me. He was alive, he was mine, and I would never, ever leave him. The ambulance ride felt like an eternity, every bump in the road jarring me against Tate's still slumping body. The ambulance doors slammed shut with a metallic clang before the siren pierced the night. Talia and Terrence climbed into their own car, following close behind as the ambulance sped toward the hospital. Inside, Noah sat beside Tate's stretcher, refusing to let go of his hand. Tate's fingers, usually warm and full of nervous energy, felt frighteningly limp in his grasp. Tate lay unconscious, his face ghostly pale. Around him, the EMTs worked with calm urgency, doing everything they could to help him breathe as the ambulance raced toward the emergency room. One paramedic monitored his airway while another kept a close eye on the monitors, relaying vital signs with practiced precision. The rhythmic beeping of the equipment filled the cramped space, each sound making Noah's heart pound harder. Noah tightened his grip on Tate's hand, rubbing his thumb gently across the back of it. "Come on, Tate," he whispered, his voice barely audible over the siren. "Please stay with me." There was no answer. The flashing red and white emergency lights reflected off the ambulance walls, bathing Tate's still face in alternating colors. Noah couldn't tear his eyes away from him. Only minutes earlier, Tate had been lying against his chest, exhausted and nauseated. Now he was unconscious, surrounded by strangers fighting to keep him breathing. Noah swallowed hard, his chest tightening with fear. "You promised you wouldn't leave me," he murmured, his voice cracking. "I'm right here, just keep fighting." The EMTs continued their work without hesitation, adjusting equipment, administering oxygen, and watching for any change in Tate's condition. Noah sat silently beside him, never releasing his hand, hoping that somehow Tate could still feel he wasn't alone. Through the small rear windows, Noah caught occasional glimpses of Talia and Terrence's car following closely behind. They never drifted far from the ambulance carrying their son as it sped through the night toward the hospital. In the ER, nurses rushed him onto a gurney and I followed closely, my hands almost shaking with fear. He had a seizure," I stammered. "Violent, convulsions, eyes rolling back, couldn't breathe, screaming. He peed himself. He had an orgasm mid-seizure. His limbs were paralyzed. Please do something." My voice cracked, tears streaking down my cheeks. A nurse guided me to the side, her voice calm but firm while Talia stood nearby. "Sir, we need to examine him first. Can you tell us everything you observed? Start from the beginning." I swallowed hard, heart hammering. He fell off the bed, he was choking. I tried to roll him over but his body, it kept thrashing. He was screaming, howling. He clawed at the floor, damaged his fingernails, peed himself, called my name, said Noah. He was convulsing. I have never seen anything like this. It's like he was possessed, or I don't know, his body. He was moving on its own. He had an orgasm during it. He passed out, eventually paralyzed. I called 911, "Please, tell me he's going to be okay." Dr. Frisch, a tall man with sharp eyes and calm authority, stepped forward, listening carefully as I rattled off every detail. He nodded slowly, jotting notes, then looked at me with a reassuring yet serious expression. "Noah, thank you for staying calm enough to give us that detailed account. What you witnessed sounds terrifying, and it's understandable you're panicked." I shook my head, panic still coiling in my stomach. "Terrifying? You don't understand. He was losing himself, he was choking, he was screaming like he was dying. He said my name. He's mine. I can't lose him. Please tell me what's happening to him." Dr. Frisch took a deep breath, then explained. "Based on what you've described, it seems Tate had a severe seizure, likely triggered by acute stress or anxiety. The behaviors you witnessed, the convulsions, muscle rigidity, involuntary movements, even the unusual autonomic responses like urination, can all occur during intense seizures. The orgasmic response you mentioned is rare, but not impossible in cases of extreme neurological stimulation. These symptoms can be alarming, but do not necessarily indicate permanent damage." I shook my head, biting my lip, trying to process. Stress, that caused all of this. His body, it was like something else took over. He called my name. He was possessed. He couldn't move. He's mine. Please tell me he's going to be okay." Dr. Frisch's expression softened slightly, though he remained professional. "No, he's stable now, and the seizure may have been brought on by a nightmare. He's being monitored and will undergo EEG testing to evaluate his brain activity. We'll check for underlying causes, rule out infections, metabolic issues, or structural abnormalities. From what you've told us, it appears to be a stress-induced seizure episode. With proper care and monitoring, patients generally recover well. I swallowed, my throat tight. Stress, everything is on him. He's always holding so much. I've never seen him like that. I couldn't stop it. I couldn't protect him fast enough. He's mine, he's mine, he's mine. My voice broke again. Dr. Frisch gave me a reassuring nod. Your presence likely helped keep him calm once he started to recover. Being there, speaking to him, holding him, patients respond positively to familiar voices. It's crucial he's surrounded by people he trusts as he stabilizes. I exhaled shakily, leaning against the wall, trying to steady my trembling hands. I can't lose him. I can't. He's everything. I don't care about anything else. I can't not be there for him. Talia mentioned Tate has seizures rarely, but it usually isn't this bad. She explained her son does convulse whenever he's emotionally overloaded or flustered, but it's been a while since his last incident. The next morning, Tate was sitting in the passenger seat of my car as if nothing had happened. His hair was messy, but his face was composed, pale maybe but utterly calm, no sign of the chaos from the night before. I gripped the wheel tighter than necessary, my knuckles whitening. He just acts like it never happened, like he's some ghost who survived but refuses to acknowledge the fire that almost consumed him. Feeling better, I asked cautiously, my voice low. Of course, Tate said, looking out the window. His tone was casual, almost teasing, but there was a tension in the way his fingers tapped on his thigh. He's denying it, pretending it's nothing, and I can't tell if that's strength or fear or both. I exhaled, unsure how to respond. You were. I stopped, the words dying in my throat. Noah, don't ask, don't pry, just let him pretend or he'll shut you out. I know what you were going to say, he interrupted smoothly. The seizure, the drama, the whole hospital, forget it, it's not important. He looked at me then, eyes sharp, almost daring me to insist. I swallowed hard, heart hammering. You can't just act like that. You nearly. I stopped again, my voice faltered. I wanted to scream, to shake him, to make him admit how close it came, but I didn't, because he would hate me for it, and worse, he'd retreat into that impenetrable wall of his. He leaned back, smirking faintly. You worry too much, Noah. I'm fine, you're fine, let's go home. I kept my eyes on the road, silent. Fine, sure, but you weren't fine, not last night. You were breaking apart and I couldn't stop it. And now you're pretending as I imagined you would, like you're untouchable, like nothing can harm you, but it can, it did, and I was there and I couldn't do anything. By the time we arrived, Tate slid out of the car with that same careless elegance, brushing past me without looking back. He didn't stumble, didn't even flinch, but I saw it, the tiniest hitch in his step, the faintest tremor in his fingers. He wanted it ignored, buried, erased from memory, and somehow, despite everything, I obeyed. I unlocked the door, letting him pass first. He walked in like he owned the space, like nothing had happened, like he always does. I followed, watching every move, every twitch, every blink. My chest ached. He's alive, he's okay, but he's fragile, and he won't admit it, not to me, not ever. Tate sank into the couch, stretching his legs. Coffee? He asked casually, like a normal morning, or do you want to sit there fretting for another hour? I bit my lip, glancing at him. You scared me, Tate, last night. You can't just... Can't just what? He interrupted, leaning forward, eyes dark and intense. Survive, Noah, breathe, continue existing. I did all of that. Stop clinging to moments that don't exist anymore. They're gone. Forget it. Live in the now. I exhaled slowly, feeling both relief and frustration. He survived, but he won't let me hold on to that. He wants me to forget it, to pretend it never happened. How do I exist with him if he refuses to exist fully, if he refuses to admit he's human? He caught my gaze and smirked again. See, I'm fine, you don't need to hover, Noah. Go make yourself useful. Coffee, tea, or sit quietly, your choice. I obeyed, but my thoughts didn't stop. Fine, sure, but I saw you on the floor, I heard you scream, I held your shaking body, and now you're pretending like it never happened. You're indestructible to everyone but yourself, and I'm still here. I can't leave you, I won't. And as I moved to make coffee, I realized something that chilled me. No matter how much he pretended, how much he acted like the seizure never occurred, I knew the fragile human inside Tate Blue, the part he'd never let anyone touch, not even me, was still there. And I'd be damned if I let him face it alone. I wasn't a doctor, no, I thought, gripping the edge of the couch as it could anchor me, but But people with anxiety don't choke on their own tongues on their bedroom floor, crying for their oldest companion while convulsing. That's not anxiety, that's something else, something dangerous, something I barely even wanted to name. Did the doctor lie to me, or was he serious? Dr. Frisch had said it was a seizure, stress-induced. A one-off, manageable and controllable, manageable, controllable. His words echoed in my head, but my eyes kept replaying Tate writhing and screaming, eyes rolling back, limbs flailing, peeing himself, and I couldn't do a damn thing. I thought about the monitors, the IVs, the doctor's calm, clinical faces. They had seen this before, handled it like routine. But I had been there, I had seen him live it, watched the storm consume him from the inside out. And it didn't feel routine. It felt like witnessing something primal, feral, and untamed, something the medical books would never capture. I pressed my face into my hands, heart hammering. What if it happens again? What if I'm not here? What if it's worse next time? The thought made my stomach knot, and I realized I had been holding my breath the entire night, barely noticing it. Tate had woken up hours later, calm, dismissive, pale but smiling, that faint, dangerous smile, like everything was normal. Normal, that was hell, and he just shrugged it off, as if it never happened. I bit my lip, whispering to myself, no, that wasn't anxiety, that was something else, something bad. And in that moment, I understood something terrifying. Tate's mind and body were a battlefield I barely even understood, and I was now tethered to it. I didn't know if I was ready to be there for every storm, but I also knew I would never leave him, even if I had to watch him suffer 1,000 more times. I turned on the shower on the third floor, adjusting the temperature until it was warm but not scalding. Tate reluctantly lowered himself onto the tile floor, sitting with his back to the water. He hated showers ever since he was 15, but today he let me take control. Letting him turn away from the cascade seemed to give him some measure of comfort, some tiny illusion of control in a world that often didn't offer him any. Just sit, I said softly, my voice low so it wouldn't startle him. He nodded slightly, shoulders tense, and I could see the faint tremor running through his body. I lifted the shampoo and began working it gently into his hair. He was completely nude on the floor, the water drenching him, but he didn't flinch away from me. He leaned into my fingers, letting me run them through his hair, massaging the tension from his scalp. His breathing slowed a fraction, but he was mumbling intangible words, low sounds that didn't form into anything I could understand. I concentrated on the rhythm of my hands, the way the water ran over his back and shoulders, letting it carry away whatever storm had been inside him. "It's okay," I murmured, "just you and me, nothing else." He didn't respond with words, only a faint sigh, leaning slightly closer to me. My heart clenched. He was letting me touch him in a way that didn't demand explanation or justification, a way that said, I trust you even if I don't understand it myself. The water beat steadily against his back, each drop seeming too loud, too sharp, like it was drilling straight into him. Tate pressed his palms harder over his ears as if he could block it all out, but it didn't help. The sound was everywhere, inside him, around him. His breathing turned shallow, uneven, and his chest barely rose as he fought to hold himself together. Muscles locked tight, his shoulders drawn up, spine rigid. A tremor ran through him, then another, until his whole body was shaking in small, uncontrollable waves. He squeezed his eyes shut harder, like darkness might steady him, like shutting everything out would stop whatever was happening beneath his skin, but it only made it worse. The pressure, the noise, the feeling of losing control inch by inch. The heat of the water suddenly felt wrong, too much, suffocating. His fingers curled tighter against his head, nails digging into his scalp now, grounding himself in something sharp, something real. A quiet, strained sound escaped him, half breath, half whimper, before he clenched his jaw, trying to swallow it down. He wasn't okay, and he knew it. Noah's stomach dropped the second he saw him. Something was wrong, really wrong. Tate wasn't just upset or stressed, this was something deeper, something Noah didn't understand but could feel in his bones. What do I do? The question hit him hard, fast, and uselessly. He took a step closer to the shower, heart hammering. "Tate," he called softly, then louder when there was no response. "Tate, hey, can you hear me?" His voice shook despite himself. He didn't want to startle him, didn't want to make it worse, but standing there doing nothing felt unbearable. Noah hovered just outside the spray, hands half raised like he might reach in and then pulling back again. "Don't grab him, don't scare him." "It's just me," he tried again, gentler now, forcing calm into his tone even as panic crawled up his spine. "You're okay, you're safe, all right, I'm right here." He swallowed hard, eyes scanning Tate's rigid frame. The way he was shaking shut down. Is he even hearing me? A thought nudged at Noah's mind, tentative and almost ridiculous. But what if? Is he afraid of water? He had never seen Tate like this before, never like this, frozen and trembling under the shower's spray. Could something as ordinary as water trigger this? Tate, talk to me, Noah whispered, almost pleading now. Tell me what you need, please, just tell me. He stayed there, willing Tate to look at him, to let him in, while his heart ached at the fear he couldn't explain. Tate sank lower until he was sitting on the shower floor, back pressed against the cold tile. His knees were drawn up, arms wrapped around them, and he began rocking slowly, almost imperceptibly at first, then with more urgency. The movement was rhythmic. Desperate, a silent plea for something, anything, to steady the storm inside him. Water ran over his shoulders, dripping down his face, but he didn't seem to notice. His body was taut, trembling with each small motion, jaw clenched so tight it ached. He stayed like that, rocking back and forth, lost in some private panic, a world where only the sound and the heat and the trembling mattered, and Noah was outside, frozen, watching helplessly. Just breathe, I said quietly, more to steady myself than him. His mumbling continued, a string of syllables and sounds that didn't make sense to my ears but somehow made sense to the tension of his body. I let my fingers glide over his scalp, through the thick, wet strands, feeling him relax fractionally. You're doing fine, I whispered, rinsing the cream, rinse slowly, letting the water cascade down his back. Just stay here, that's enough. He let out another soft, barely audible sound, a wordless acknowledgement, and I realized how fragile and fierce he was at the same time. Fragile enough to shiver and mumble, fierce enough to let me near him when he hated this, hated vulnerability, hated surrender. And I thought as my hands worked carefully through his hair, this is what he needs. This is what I need, to be allowed into this corner of him, to hold him without demanding, without questioning, without trying to fix what isn't broken. Just to exist here in this small, warm bubble of trust. The shower continued, warm water streaming down both of us, and he leaned further into me, almost imperceptibly. I let my fingers trace patterns in his hair, following the contours of his scalp, feeling the subtle shudders of his body as he released tension he didn't even realize he'd been holding. I realized then that these moments, this quiet care, this intimacy without expectation, were as close as we'd get to safety in this chaotic, consuming world we inhabited. And for now, that was enough. Can you get in the shower with me, Noe? His voice was weak, almost a whisper, trembling in a way that made my chest tighten. I'm scared. I froze for a second, my mind racing. Scared? Him, Tate? The guy who never shows fear? My heart lurched at the rawness of it, the vulnerability he rarely let anyone see. His body was facing away from the shower head and drain, hunched slightly, shoulders tense, every line of him rigid yet fragile. Yeah, I said softly, trying to keep my voice calm, steady, even though my stomach flipped at the sight of him like this. Slowly, I stepped into the warm spray, feeling the water coat my skin and cascade down my back. He flinched slightly at the sudden proximity but didn't move away, didn't push me out. Stay close, he murmured, voice cracking slightly. Don't look at me. I nodded and stayed behind him, letting the water wash over both of us. I could feel the tension in his body, each shiver, each micro-movement. His hair was wet and heavy, plastered to his neck, and he pressed slightly into me, letting me be there without demanding it. You're okay, I whispered, though it sounded more like a prayer to myself than a reassurance for him. I'm here, nothing's going to happen. He exhaled shakily, tilting his head just enough to let me see the curve of his jaw, the faint clench of his fists. I could feel his fear radiating off him, fragile and sharp. My hands hovered over him, unsure if he wanted contact, unsure if he could even bear it, but I didn't pull away. I just stayed there, the warmth of the water between us letting him lean against me. I don't want to be alone, he admitted, voice barely above a whisper as though saying it louder might make it vanish. Not right now, please. My chest clenched. He never asked for help, he never asked for comfort, and yet here he was, letting me into this tiny, scared corner of himself. You're not alone, I said, my hand brushing lightly along his shoulder, not touching, just there, present. I'm right here, just breathe, that's enough. His body trembled slightly against mine, and I realized he was not just wet from the shower, he was shaking from something deeper, something raw and terrifying. My own heartbeat sped up, not from fear but from the intensity of letting him lean on me, letting me share this fragile, unguarded moment. I'm not asking for anything else, he murmured. I just want you here, that's all. All I want is to protect him, I thought, feeling an almost overwhelming urge to shield him from everything that made him tremble. Just to let him exist safely, even if only in this tiny space under this warm water with me behind him. I stayed there still, letting him press into me, letting the water wash over us both, letting him be scared, letting him be fragile, letting him be completely and utterly himself. And I realized, as I felt the warmth of his body against mine, the weight of his fear, the tiny moments of trust, that sometimes presence, just being there, was everything. Can you take everything off? His voice was cracked, small and trembling. Tears streaked his cheeks. I sat beside him on the wet shower floor, heart hammering. He was shaking, eyes wide, chest rising and falling in rapid, shallow pants. He looked like a child lost in the storm of his own fear. I'm here, Tate, I whispered, my hands hovering over his arms, unsure if he wanted me to touch him or just be near. It's okay, I'm not going anywhere. He shivered violently and I could see the panic building, every muscle in his body tensed like he was bracing for impact. His words came out fragmented, almost pleading. Hold me, please, hold me. As I reached for him, his body jolted sharply, small spasms rippling through him. I froze for a heartbeat, then gently wrapped my arms around his trembling torso. His head tucked into my shoulder and immediately the tremors grew, his chest convulsing in irregular, erratic motions. His breaths came in panicked bursts, shallow gasps that sounded like he was suffocating. Tate, it's me, I'm here, I said urgently, pressing my body close to his, trying to anchor him. The moment I held him, his limbs began to jerk violently. His fingers clawed at the shower tiles, damaging his nails, his toes flexing and kicking uncontrollably. Panic clawed at my throat as I realized this wasn't just fear. It was physical, overwhelming, uncontainable. He was choking, struggling against his own body, turning onto his stomach as if trying to escape some invisible force. His eyes rolled back, whites glaring, and I could barely recognize him in the rawness of the seizure. He was crying out, first in words, then in sounds, primal and guttural, a scream that tore through the room. Noah, please, his voice broke into fragmented pleas, then howled like a tortured animal. I tightened my hold, trying to shield him from the slippery floor, whispering his name over and over. Tate, stay with me, breathe, look at me. But the seizure consumed him, jerking him into poses that made my stomach twist with helplessness. I could feel his body tense, spasm, and then a terrifying, disorienting climax of motion, his legs and arms convulsing, a frightening combination of fear and involuntary reaction. He peed himself, the warm shock only adding to the chaos, and I pressed closer, holding him still as best I could. His eyes rolled completely back and his lips whispered my name between ragged gasps. Noah, Noah! The words were lost in the tremors, the screaming, the raw intensity of his body fighting against itself. My own hands shook as I held him, trying to keep him upright, trying to prevent him from hitting the tiles, trying to keep him alive. I called out, voice cracking. Tate, hold on, don't let go of me, stay with me. My mind raced, panic pressing every thought aside except the absolute need to keep him safe. Breathe, stay alive, I can't lose him here, not like this. The seizure began to slow, his jerks becoming less violent, but he still trembled and whimpered against me, exhausted, pale body trembling with aftershocks. His lips barely formed words. Noah, his chest heaved, wet hair plastered to his forehead, water mingling with sweat and tears. I pressed my forehead to the back of his, murmuring, It's okay, Tate, I'm here, you're safe, I won't leave you, you're alive, you're okay. He shivered, tears still streaking down his face, and slowly, almost imperceptibly, his body relaxed a fraction. I could feel the tension ebbing, though the trembling didn't fully disappear. His eyes, still wide and haunted, flicked to mine, seeking reassurance, anchoring himself in my presence. You didn't leave, he whispered, voice broken. I thought. I'll never leave you, I said softly. Not now, not ever, just breathe, just be with me. And in that moment I realized, this wasn't just fear. It wasn't just trauma, it was the raw, consuming intensity of Tate's body and mind colliding with everything he held inside. And I was the only anchor he had, the only person he could let see him like this. I held him through the tremors, through the aftershocks, through the ragged, trembling gasps, whispering his name, letting him feel grounded, letting him feel alive. And even as fear clawed at me too, I knew I wouldn't let go. Tate's eyes flicked toward the shower head, and the instant he saw it, his body stiffened. His hands shot up to shield his face and he flinched violently, almost collapsing forward. I tightened my arms around him, holding him close, feeling the tremor ripple through his body. "SHH, it's okay, Tate, you're safe," I whispered, pressing my chest to his back so he could bury his face. He curled in against me, forehead pressed to my chest, shivering, almost trying to disappear into me. I could feel the rapid pulse of his fear, the subtle convulsions in his shoulders and arms. Even the sound of the water hitting the tiles seemed to amplify it, every droplet a trigger for his anxiety. His breath came in quick, shallow gasps, and I ran my fingers through his wet hair, trying to anchor him, trying to give him something solid to hold onto. Don't look," he muttered, voice muffled against my chest. I can't." "You don't have to," I murmured. "You don't have to look at anything, just stay here, lean into me, let me handle it." He trembled, quivering against me like a frightened animal, and I could feel the tension coiling in his body, ready to snap. I adjusted my position, so I was kneeling behind him, letting him fold into me completely. His hands gripped my arms instinctively, pulling me closer, as if my presence could somehow absorb the fear washing over him. "It's just water, Tate," I whispered, even though I knew it wasn't really about the water. "It can't hurt you, nothing's going to touch you, not the water, not the shower, just me, only me." His body relaxed fractionally, though the trembling didn't fully stop. I felt the tightness in his muscles ease a bit, the panic ebb just enough for him to breathe. I pressed a kiss to the top of his head, whispering reassurance, letting him know he wasn't alone in this, that I was right there, completely present. I hate it," he murmured, words muffled, shivering violently. "I hate it, I can't." "I know," I said softly, stroking his back and shoulders. "You don't have to, I've got you, you don't have to face it, not yet, not ever alone, I'm here, always." He sighed shakily, still trembling, but he didn't pull away. He let himself fold fully against me, head buried, eyes squeezed shut, letting the fear exist without judgment or demand. And as I held him, I realized that for him, my presence wasn't just comforting, it was a lifeline, a tether to the world when everything inside him felt like it was spinning out of control. I pressed my cheek to the back of his head, heart racing with the intensity of his vulnerability. I won't let him face this alone, not ever. I'll be his anchor, even when he doesn't want it, even when he hates it, even when he's terrified. I'll hold him here, always. And in that moment, all the fear, all the trembling, all the panic in his body didn't matter. He was here, he was alive, and he was letting me be the one to hold him steady, to hold him safe, even if only for this moment. The second the shower hit his back, Tate gagged violently, turning his face away. His body convulsed, and before I could react, he vomited, the smell and the panic making my stomach lurch. He was trembling uncontrollably, eyes wide, drenched, and utterly terrified. I can't," he stammered, voice breaking, his whole body curling in on itself. The water felt like an assault, like a threat he couldn't escape. Before I could reach for a towel, the door swung open with a gust of air from the AC, sending a shiver down both of our spines. The sudden cold made the water on his skin feel icy. Tate screamed, a raw, animalistic sound that rattled my chest. In a desperate, reflexive motion, he grabbed me, pulling my nude body against his trembling form. I froze for a second, heart hammering, not from the closeness but from the sheer intensity of his fear. His arms wrapped around me like a vice, fingers digging into my shoulders, pressing me down onto him. His chest heaved against mine, shaking, gasping for breath. "It's okay, Tate, I'm here," I murmured, my own voice shaking slightly. "I've got you, nothing's going to hurt you, I won't let it." His face buried into my shoulder, soaking wet, tears mixing with the water dripping off his hair. I could feel the tremors running through his body, small, uncontrolled convulsions that made me clutch him tighter. I'm scared, I hate this, I can't," he sobbed, and I felt the terror radiating off him in waves. I pressed my lips to the back of his head, murmuring every reassurance I could think of. "You're safe, it's just me, just breathe with me, nothing else matters, I'm not going anywhere, not now, not ever." Even as he shook, even as the fear clawed at him, he didn't let go. He pulled me closer, seeking warmth and safety, letting his panic transfer onto me in the most vulnerable way possible. His small, gasping breaths were almost hypnotic, terrifying in their intensity. I stroked his back, whispered over and over that he was safe, that I was here, that nothing outside this moment could touch him. Every twitch, every convulsion, every tear reminded me how fragile and terrified he was, but also how much he trusted me to hold him through it. And as he clung to me, shaking and sobbing, I realized this wasn't about nudity or intimacy or shame. It was about survival, about letting someone who had been through so much know that, at least here in this moment, they weren't alone. Tate's trembling body began to slow slightly, though his grip remained firm, desperate, needing the reassurance that only I could give. I held him like that for what felt like hours, murmuring his name, letting him lean fully on me, breathing together, existing in the storm without judgment or demand. And in that horrifying, intimate panic, I understood something I'd never felt before. Being needed this completely, so utterly, was terrifying and overwhelming, but also sacred. Tate was flat against the cold tile, his body trembling uncontrollably. His chest heaved, panting in shallow, frantic bursts, each inhale shaky and uneven. His eyes darted wildly, glazed, unseeing, as if the world around him no longer existed. He didn't recognize me, didn't know where he was, and didn't even know who he was. "Tate, it's me, Noah, I'm right here," I whispered, my voice trembling despite my effort to stay calm. I knelt beside him, pressing my hands gently against his shoulders, trying to anchor him to something real. He convulsed, small spasms jerking through his arms and legs, fingers clawing at the tile as if trying to dig through the floor. He cried out, muffled sobs escaping between choked gasps. His body rolled slightly and I caught him, keeping him from hitting the edge of the tub. "Oh God, Tate, you're okay. I've got you," I murmured, leaning down so my chest was against his back. I wrapped my arms around him, trying to absorb some of the tremor, trying to give him something solid to hold onto. "It's okay, it's just me, just breathe with me, I won't let anything hurt you." He shook violently, crying, eyes rolling back, lips quivering. "Noah, help me," he gasped, words breaking into sobs. My chest tightened as I felt the terror radiating off him. I had never seen him like this, so raw, so terrified, so human. I ran my hands along his arms, over his shoulders, down his back, murmuring his name softly over and over. "You're safe, Tate, it's just me, just stay with me, breathe in, out, in, out." His body arched suddenly, limbs stiffening, and I felt the full force of the seizure as it racked him. I kept him pressed close, supporting his head, careful not to restrict him too much, murmuring reassurance like a lifeline. "You're not alone," I whispered again. "I'm here, I'm not going anywhere, none of this can hurt you, not now." He sobbed, shaking uncontrollably, tears streaming into the water pooling on the shower floor. I could feel his fear like electricity, jagged and raw, surging through him with every convulsion. Tate's small, pained whimpers cut through me, and I wanted to take it all to shield him from every ounce of panic and pain. "Stay with me, Tate, please. I need you with me," I said, pressing my cheek against his wet hair, letting him lean fully into me. I felt the tremors gradually soften, though they didn't stop entirely. His sobs became ragged gasps, but at least he was still tethered to reality by my presence. I whispered over and over, letting him hear my voice, letting him know he was safe, letting him cling to me without shame, without judgment. And slowly, infinitesimally, he began to relax, his body losing some of the wild, frantic tension, though his chest still rose and fell unevenly. Watching him like this, vulnerable and terrified, made my chest ache. Every shudder, every gasp, every cry was a reminder of how much he needed me, and how much I would protect him, even if it meant holding him through the darkest, most chaotic moments of his own mind. Finally, after what felt like hours, he lay trembling against me, exhausted, panting, still crying softly. I stroked his hair, whispering his name, letting him know he was safe, letting him exist in this terrifying limbo without fear of judgment, without needing to understand it. And I realized as I held him close that nothing else mattered, not the water, not the fear, not the chaos. In this moment, the only thing that mattered was keeping him tethered, alive and breathing. That was enough. Tate went completely still. His limbs slackened, his chest rising and falling shallowly, and his tongue protruded from his mouth. He had passed out cold, and for a moment my stomach dropped. "No, Tate," I whispered, panic tightening my chest. I pressed my hands against his shoulders, shaking him gently at first, then more insistently. "Wake up, please, Tate, don't do this to me." His body was limp in my arms, the color in his cheeks drained, his breathing shallow and uneven. I frantically checked his pulse, my fingers trembling as they pressed against his neck. It was faint, too faint, my heart raced. "Oh God, stay with me," Please stay with me, I murmured, feeling tears prick at the corners of my eyes as I was unsure how to help or what I could do to ease Tate's discomfort and fear. My mind raced with everything I knew about seizures, the hospital visit, the panic from before. This wasn't just fear anymore, this was life-threatening. I grabbed a towel, gently rolling him onto his side to make sure he wouldn't choke on his tongue, but he was so heavy and so limp I barely managed it. "You hear me, Tate? It's me. Noah, you're safe, you're not alone, you're going to be okay." I could hear my own heartbeat pounding in my ears, my chest tightening as I realized how close we'd come to disaster. Every muscle in my body tensed as I leaned over him, whispering every comforting word I could think of, willing him to respond. "Please, come back to me, don't leave me like this," I choked out, tears streaming down my face. I felt a surge of helplessness I'd never known before, the fear of losing him completely pressing down like a weight I couldn't shake. His body twitched once, then twice, and I clutched him tighter, both relieved and terrified. "That's it, you're okay, I'm right here." I kept my face pressed to his hair, whispering over and over that he was safe, that he wasn't alone. Even passed out, even unconscious, he still felt fragile, like glass teetering on the edge. My mind raced, thinking about everything he'd been carrying, the nightmares, the stress, the weight of his world, and I understood why this had happened. My chest ached with both fear and the desperate need to protect him. I held him there for what felt like hours, my hands stroking his back, my lips brushing his hairline, whispering every reassurance I could summon. I didn't care about anything else, school, Brown, the world outside, none of it mattered. Tate being alive, being safe in my arms was all that mattered. And slowly, infinitesimally, I felt the tension in his body ease. His breath deepened slightly, his fingers twitched. The first fragile signs of life returned. I pressed closer, murmuring, "You're okay, just breathe, just stay with me." Even as he lay unconscious and still fragile, I knew one thing with absolute certainty: I would never leave him. Never, not for anything. I would be there holding him, anchoring him until he could breathe and move and exist in the world again. And even then I'd stay, because this was all that mattered. Tate stirred first, eyelids fluttering open, and I held my breath, afraid he'd collapse or panic again. But instead he slowly sat up on the large rug in the bathroom, body still trembling faintly from the ordeal, and looked around with that familiar, controlled expression. "Sorry," Tate said, "I must have had a seizure, help me up." My chest tightened. "You nearly." I said, "I'm fine," he interrupted again, his gaze hardening, eyes flicking away. He smoothed his hair back as if nothing had happened. "I just needed some rest, let's not talk about it, not now, not ever, understood?" I nodded, though my mind was spinning. Understood, but I didn't understand. How could he just act as if none of that happened? The way his body had convulsed, the screaming, the panic, the peeing himself, he just ignored it, buried it somewhere deep, and moved on. I sat beside him on the rug, hesitant, careful, trying to process it all. "Tate, you don't even mention it." He smirked faintly, the shadow of that dangerous, untouchable smile crossing his face. "What, Noah, like I need to dramatize a seizure on the bathroom floor? It's done, I'm fine, you were there, that's enough, end of story." I wanted to argue, wanted to say that what happened wasn't done, that I'd seen him as I'd never seen anyone, that the terror and vulnerability weren't something that could be dismissed with a shrug. But he didn't give me room. His presence, calm and cold, demanded obedience or at least silence. I nodded slowly, chest tight, letting him dictate the terms again. Inside, though, my thoughts swirled. He's so strong, so unyielding, but also so human. He's terrifying, Tate. He lets me see everything and nothing, and I don't know what to do with that. I just want him to be okay. I want him to be here alive next to me, even if he won't let me talk about what happened. He finished his water and set the glass down, looking at me briefly. "Come on, let's get out of this bathroom before the tile chills our asses. Shower's done, get dressed." I obeyed, but my mind stayed tangled in the memory of last night, the storm of his body and fear, the vulnerability he refused to acknowledge, and the impossible weight of being the one he trusted enough to survive it with him. And I realized that was just who Tate was. Nothing changed what happened, but everything about him demanded survival, composure, and fear all at once. And I had no idea how to untangle my own feelings about it. "Why are you afraid of water, Tate?" I asked softly, keeping my voice calm, trying not to startle him. I watched him fidget slightly, hands gripping the edge of the tub as if he could anchor himself to it. "You were fine, until we stopped showering together." He looked away, jaw tight, fingers tapping lightly against the tile. For a moment, he said nothing, and I could see the shadow of fear lurking behind his usual control. "I almost drowned years ago," he admitted finally, his voice low, rough, trembling just slightly. He didn't look at me, staring instead at the water dripping down the tiles. It wasn't like anyone pulled me under. I just panicked, couldn't breathe, water everywhere. I can't forget it." My chest tightened. He nearly drowned, and he never told me. The thought of him trapped, helpless, and alone in the water made my stomach twist. I wanted to shake him, to yell, to hold him, and make him understand that I'd never let that happen again. "Tate," I said, voice soft but firm, "you're safe now. I'm right here. I won't let anything happen to you. No water will hurt you if I'm here. You don't have to face it alone." He let out a short, humorless laugh, bitter and almost sad. "You think it's that simple, Noah? You think I can just relax after everything I've seen, everything I've survived? A little water can still terrify me. A lot of water can kill me." I moved closer, kneeling beside him on the floor of the shower, careful not to crowd him. "I get it," I said. "I can't make it go away, I can't erase the past, but I can be here with you now. I can help you feel, okay? You don't have to face it alone, not ever." He finally met my eyes, and for a fraction of a second the armor he usually wore slipped. His pupils were wide, raw fear flickering behind them, but there was also something else: vulnerability, trust. He let me see that part of him that few ever did. I don't want to be afraid, Noah," he whispered, voice cracking, "but the memory, it's too real, too suffocating. I can't." "You don't have to do it alone," I said again, my hand brushing his arm gently. "We'll take it slow, one step at a time. I'll be here. I'll never let you drown, Tate, not in water, not in anything." He swallowed hard, lips pressed together, and leaned slightly into my touch, though his body remained tense. I hate being weak," he admitted, voice almost inaudible. I can't let anyone see this side of me, not like this, but I guess I don't mind you seeing it." I let him lean against me, guiding his body gently as the water dripped around us. "It's not weakness," I said quietly. "It's human. You survived something terrifying. That doesn't make you weak, it makes you alive, and I'm glad you let me be here with you." He didn't answer immediately, but he let out a long, shaky breath, closing his eyes as if letting the tension slowly bleed out of his body. And in that silence I realized fear could exist alongside trust. Terror could exist alongside presence, and for once Tate didn't have to face it alone. "How do you almost drowned in a shower, Tate?" I asked, voice low, careful not to startle him. I needed to understand, though part of me feared the answer. I watched him tense, shoulders stiffening, eyes darting toward the showerhead like it held some hidden threat. He shook his head slowly, lips pressed tight. "It wasn't the water itself, no, it wasn't like I slipped under or anything. I panicked, my chest. It felt like it stopped working, like air wasn't mine anymore. I was alone, spinning, trapped in the steam, the sound of water pounding everywhere, and suddenly I couldn't breathe, I couldn't think. Every second felt like it was swallowing me whole." My stomach twisted. He panicked so badly in his own bathroom. Something that should have been safe became a trap. I could see the fear still etched in his expression, even now, days later, sitting just a few feet from me. I don't know how it happened," he continued, voice breaking slightly. "It's just a flash, a memory that hit me wrong. I saw myself slipping, drowning, helpless, and my body responded before my mind could even tell it to stop. I clawed at the floor, I gagged, His voice cracked and he looked away, ashamed. I reached out slowly, resting a hand on his arm. "Tate, it's okay," I whispered. "It's not your fault. You were scared. That's human. It doesn't make you weak, it makes you alive." He let out a humorless laugh, short and bitter. "Alive? Barely. I hate that it got me like that. I hate that I let myself feel so small, so out of control. I'm supposed to be untouchable, Noah, untouchable, and here I am choking on water like some idiot." My chest tightened at the vulnerability in his voice. This is the side of Tate no one sees, the side that trembles, that panics, that's terrified despite all the power, money, and control, and somehow that terrified boy on the shower floor is mine to witness, mine to hold. "You don't have to be untouchable," I said gently. "Not with me. I won't let anything hurt you, not water, not fear, not the past. You can lean on me, you can let yourself just be human here with me." He swallowed hard, fingers tightening slightly against the edge of the tub. I don't want anyone else seeing it, he admitted, voice barely above a whisper. No one else, not my family, not my lovers, no one, but I guess I don't mind you. My throat tightened. You don't have to, Tate, I'm here, I'm not going anywhere, you can let yourself feel this with me. He exhaled, finally letting his shoulders drop a little. Fine, fine, just don't look too shocked when I freak out again, I don't control it, not always. I nodded, heart pounding, watching him closely. I don't care if he freaks out, I'll be here. I'll hold him, I'll stay, no matter what. And in that moment the fear, the shame, the terror, all of it didn't matter. What mattered was that he was here, alive, leaning into me, trusting me enough to let me see him like this. Tate pulled back slightly, brushing imaginary water droplets from his shoulders, his face settling into that familiar mask of composure. He didn't acknowledge the panic, the trembling, the way he'd almost drowned. It was as if none of it had ever occurred. I stared at him, chest tight, wanting to speak, to ask, to make him admit what just happened. But Tate's eyes met mine with that familiar fire, calm yet commanding. Enough about that, he said, voice smooth, almost casual. Let's talk about Brown University instead. How's your schedule looking for the first week at college? I blinked, stunned. He just switched it off, like flipping a switch. The terror, the fear, the screaming, it's gone, erased. And now we're talking classes. My mind raced, trying to reconcile the boy I'd seen choking and convulsing with the Tate in front of me, all polished control and calm detachment. I swallowed, my fingers gripping the edge of the tub. Brown, my classes are fine. I've chosen the courses that will help me earn my 2 desired degrees, I said slowly, unsure if I should press, unsure if I wanted to. Does he think I'll forget, or does he just not let himself remember? He gave me a small, almost imperceptible smile. Good, you need to focus on yourself, Noah, not on me, not on what just happened, that's the past. I wanted to argue, to tell him that the past wasn't past, that I had seen him break apart and that I couldn't just act like it didn't happen. But the words stuck in my throat. Tate had already moved on, his presence demanding attention, insisting on normalcy. That's just who he is, I thought. He survived everything, every threat, every fear, every danger, and he survives it by not letting it touch him now, not letting it control him, not letting me control him. I exhaled slowly, letting the tension drain from my shoulders. Right, I said softly. Classes, sure, I'll focus on that. Tate's gaze softened slightly as he stepped closer, drying his hands on a towel. Exactly, you focus on being alive, being present, and leave the rest to me. I nodded, trying to steady my racing thoughts. Alive, present, that's all he wants from me, and maybe that's enough for now. Even though my mind screamed questions about the panic, the fear, the almost drowning, I let them go, letting Tate dictate the rhythm of the moment. He'd faced the darkness and now he wanted light. I decided for now I'd follow him there. I exhaled slowly, my chest tight, my mind tangled. He's mine in a way no one else could ever be, and yet he's untouchable, uncontrollable, vast, and chaotic. And I don't care, I want it all, the danger, the obsession, the tenderness, even the fury, even the moments I don't understand. I want to exist here, tethered to him, even if it terrifies me, even if it confuses me, even if it's impossible. I leaned back, letting the moment wash over me, a storm of fear and fascination, of awe and longing. He said love you, in that soft, dangerous way, and it might have been to them, but a part of me believes it was to me too. That's all I have, that's all I need, and maybe that's enough. Every year on his birthday, Noah made the same silent wish. He never told anyone about it, not even Tate. It was a wish he knew was selfish, one that filled him with guilt the moment it formed in his mind. He begged the universe not to let Tate fall in love with someone else. Not with a woman, not with another man, not with some beautiful teenage crush or anyone who could make Tate's heart race the way Noah wished he could make it race. The thought alone was unbearable. Noah knew he had no right to feel that way. Tate wasn't his, he had never been. Love wasn't something Noah could claim or protect simply because he wanted it. Still, logic did nothing to quiet the ache inside him. His jealousy was fierce, a crushing weight that settled against his chest until it became difficult to breathe. He couldn't imagine hearing Tate speak softly to someone else, watching him smile with that rare warmth, or seeing the tenderness in his eyes reserved for another person. The idea hollowed him out. If Noah ever discovered that Tate had fallen deeply in love, truly desired someone with the same desperate intensity that Noah had loved him for years, he didn't know how he would survive it. Watching Tate give another person the affection, longing, and devotion Noah had spent so long yearning for would shatter him in ways he wasn't sure he could recover from. It was unrequited, and Noah had accepted that long ago. But acceptance had never dulled the love, nor had it lessened the fear that one day Tate's heart would belong completely to someone else. That possibility broke Noah's heart long before it had ever become reality. I wondered if Tate had ever been in love, but the thought was dangerous, a question I couldn't ask. His world was so different from mine, a universe built on wealth, power, and control, and I feared that even asking about desire would shatter some fragile line between us. Did he carry the memory of a person who had touched him, who had made him feel more than the cold calculations of his family allowed? Was there someone real, someone who had made him ache to kiss, to touch, to surrender himself to another? I tried to picture it, tried to imagine Tate's lips pressed against someone's, his body and mind willingly open, vulnerable in ways he never let me see. But the image felt impossible. Tate had always been precise, measured, controlled, a man who mastered performance as easily as breathing. Love, if it had ever existed for him, would have been a hidden script, one that only he knew and kept locked behind walls of silver and glass. And yet, the thought gnawed at me. Desire was a universal thing, wasn't it? Everyone, rich or poor, powerful or powerless, must feel it. Maybe Tate had been reckless once, wild in a way no one in his family could forgive. Or maybe he'd never dared, never allowed himself the chaos of love, because in his world chaos could destroy everything. My chest tightened at the notion that Tate, with all his money and charm, could be lonely, could crave someone the way I craved him, but never speak it aloud. The idea made him human, fragile in ways no one expected, and I realized I was searching for cracks in his armor, hoping to see the man beneath the myth. I wanted to ask him. I wanted to strip away the walls, the rehearsed smiles, the cold elegance, and ask, who have you loved? Who has ever held your heart? But I wouldn't. The question felt too intimate, too dangerous, a thread I wasn't sure I had the courage to pull. So I stayed silent, letting the curiosity burn quietly inside me, wondering if beneath the control and the perfection, Tate had ever been wild enough to surrender, to want, to need, to love. And if he had, if that fire had ever existed, I would never know, not fully, not in the way I longed to. All I could do was watch, wait, and hope that in some secret corner of his life he had felt something real, something messy, something human. Maybe I would ask. Have you ever been in love, Tate? Noah asked. Not with anyone I could marry, he said quietly, almost to himself. His voice carried the kind of exhaustion that comes from years of seeing the truth behind masks and facades. I felt affection, admiration, desire, but love, true, honest, human love, not for someone I could actually be with, not in a world like mine. I hesitated, feeling the weight of his words pressing on my chest. Have you been in love, Noah? He asked suddenly, his tone softer now, curious, almost tentative, like a child asking a dangerous question. I swallowed, feeling my own heart tighten. Not with any person that loved me back. I'm sorry, Noe, Tate kissed my cheek. Whomever she was, she's an idiot for not loving you back. Tate's eyes flickered with that mix of pride and obsession he always carried when it came to my future. He leaned back, fingers drumming against the arm of the chair, voice low but intense. Tate's jaw tightened, his hands clenching into fists as he stared at me, eyes dark and serious. His voice carried that mix of intensity and desperation I knew all too well. 2 weeks ago, Tate was in bed talking about Brown and why he needed to follow me instead of attending Princeton. Long-distance relationships like ours, Noah, he said slowly, each word deliberate, are something I refuse to do. I won't sit across the country from you, wondering if you're safe, wondering if some rich predator is sniffing around you, wondering if you're okay. I can't, I just can't. I swallowed, feeling the tension in the room like a living thing. But Brown isn't here, Tate. I need to go, I said quietly, trying to balance my excitement with the reality of his presence. He shook his head, running a hand through his hair, frustration and fear mingling in his expression. I don't care if it's Brown, Harvard, Yale, or Mars, he snapped, voice dropping lower, almost a growl. I refuse to be in a relationship where I can't see you, touch you, make sure you're safe. You're my responsibility, Noah. My job isn't just to love you, it's to protect you. And distance, that's a weapon against that protection. That's why I won't allow it. I felt a pang of guilt mixed with understanding. I understand, Tate, I said softly, but this is something I have to do for me. I need to learn, to grow, to see the world on my own. You taught me how to be safe. You gave me knowledge and tools. I can do this. His eyes softened slightly, but the tension never left his posture. You can do a lot of things, Noah, he said, voice quieter now, almost pleading. But I won't sit back and watch you walk into a world that doesn't care about you. Long distance isn't just geography, it's dangerous, it's temptation, it's exposure. I can't survive it emotionally, I need to be near you. I nodded slowly, heart aching for both of us. I'll visit as much as I can, I said. I'll keep you close in every way I can. The words hung in the air, heavy with fear, love, and obsession. I realized then that for Tate, being with me wasn't just a desire, it was survival. And maybe in a strange, twisted way, so was I. I won't do long distance, he said finally, quieter now but no less firm. Not with you, not ever, I'll attend Brown. My heart sank because I knew then, really knew, that this wasn't just about colleges. It was about how tightly he needed to hold on and how much space I was finally asking for. No, I said firmly, I don't want you at Brown if you're giving up your dream, I sighed, already exhausted by how heavy this felt. He stiffened, anger flashing across his face. You don't want me there, he asked like it was a challenge. No, I yelled, the word ripping out of me before I could soften it. Not if your dream isn't Brown. Friends don't make friends choose between their future and them. That stopped him. Tate stepped forward and pulled me into his chest, holding on like he was afraid I'd vanish if he loosened his grip. For 8 years, Noah, he said quietly, his voice rough against my hair, I dreamed of going to Princeton with you, and if you're not there I would hate attending a university you're not at every day. My throat tightened, I shook my head against him. It's 200 miles, Tate, not another planet. I pulled back just enough to look at him. I'll drive every weekend if I have to. I'll sit in traffic, eat bad diner food, and sleep in my car if it means you don't give this up. He searched my face, torn, eyes dark with conflict. You shouldn't have to do that. I want to, I insisted, because that's what supporting someone looks like, not trapping them close so you don't feel scared. His jaw clenched. You don't get it, he said softly. Being without you every day feels like losing you. It isn't, I said just as softly. Loving someone doesn't mean shrinking the world until it's small enough not to hurt. It means trusting that distance won't erase us. He exhaled, shaky like he'd been holding his breath for years. His arms loosened just a little, not letting go but not crushing me either. I don't want to resent you, he admitted. Then don't make a choice you'll resent, I replied. Go to Princeton, be proud of it, let me go to Brown, we'll figure the rest out. For the first time since I'd said the word Brown, he didn't argue right away. He just held me there, caught between fear and faith, trying to learn how to choose both of us without destroying either. I can't, Tate said, shaking his head hard. I'd miss you like crazy, get depressed, flunk out of Princeton. Do you really want that on your conscience, Noah? He pulled a ridiculous, exaggerated sad puppy face. I laughed despite myself. And, he added quickly, brightening, if we share a room at Brown we can make it cozy, help each other meet people, get dates, watch each other's backs. Only Tate could spin abandoning Princeton into a grand, selfless plan. He was convinced that living together was the answer to everything, even my love life, even things he didn't fully understand about me yet. Think about it, he pressed, warming to his argument. 4 amazing years at Brown, no endless freeway drives, no crashing at a campus that doesn't feel like home every other weekend, no counting days, or we do the practical thing and stay together. I let him win. Tate would be too devoted, too jealous of the world stealing my attention to imagine college without me at his side, his partner in crime, his anchor, the one person he refused to leave behind. September of 1986 came and Talia boxed our things, her movements brisk and precise, sending us by car to the Lax airport on our way toward Brown. The streets passed in a familiar blur, late summer light glinting off buildings we had walked 1,000 times. We promised to return in 3 months on the day before Christmas Eve to share our news and see the family. It felt like a fragile thread connecting the past to the uncertain future ahead, a tether to the life we were leaving behind even as we stepped toward something new. It was thrilling and terrifying, a way to carve out independence while walking the tightrope of expectation. Each decision, each calculation felt like staking a claim in a world I barely understood, a world Tate had mastered without effort, a world I was now learning to navigate. As the plane lifted off the tarmac, leaving the city far below, I felt a strange mixture of anticipation and anxiety. Brown was more than a school. It was a promise of freedom, knowledge, and growth, but also a test of every choice I had made so far. The weight of expectation pressed on me from my family, from Tate, and from the quiet sense that the Blue Legacy was watching every step. And yet, amid the fear, there was exhilaration. For the first time, I was steering my own course, armed with knowledge, ambition, and the subtle assurance that some part of me, the part Tate had shaped, challenged, and protected, was ready to face what lay ahead. The day we moved into our snug little dorm on the second floor, the air smelled like wet leaves and old stone. I claimed the left wall, stacking my books and pinning up photos from home, while Tate immediately took over the right side by the window, drawn to the light as it belonged to him. It did suit him. Everything did. The first semester was nothing like Southern California. The temperature alone felt like a punishment. I learned quickly that sweaters were no longer optional, and neither was missing the sun. 2 weeks into the semester, on a Thursday, I was dragged out of sleep by the shrill ring of the dorm phone at 3 in the morning. Tate groaned beside me, rolling onto his back. "Jesus," he muttered, then picked up the receiver, voice low and rough with sleep. "Yeah." There was a pause. His entire body went rigid. "It's Mark," he said flatly, covering the mouthpiece and glancing at me. "He wants to talk to you." I pushed myself up on one elbow, confused. At 3 in the morning. Tate shrugged, scowling at me. "He's in California, so there's a time difference," I explained to Tate. "It won't be long, I'll just talk to him for 2 minutes and hang up." Tate didn't hand me the phone right away. He sat up straighter, jaw tightening, something sharp and possessive flashing across his face before he caught himself. When he spoke again, it wasn't to me. "What do you want?" he growled into the receiver. I'd never heard that tone from him before, not even with people he openly disliked. It wasn't anger exactly. It was something closer to a threat, raw and unfiltered, like the call itself was an intrusion into something Tate believed was his. I reached for the phone. "Tate." He shot me a look, conflicted, then finally shoved the receiver into my hand. "Make it quick." I took the phone, heart pounding, acutely aware of Tate sitting beside me, every muscle tense, listening even though he pretended not to be. Whatever Mark had called for, Tate had already decided it was too much, too late, and far too close. Jealousy clung to the room like the cold, quiet, undeniable, and impossible to ignore. "Yeah," I said quietly, turning my back to Tate even though I could feel him watching me. "What's up?" "Hey, kid," Mark replied, his voice easy, familiar. Talking to him always felt natural, no edge, no performance, just comfort. "I'm heading to Boston tomorrow. I'll be in Providence for a few hours before that. Thought maybe we could meet up, if you're free." "I'd like that," I said before I could overthink it. "What time works for you?" he asked. 7, I offered, half joking, half hopeful. "Perfect," Mark said. There was a pause, then his tone dipped, teasing but careful. "We could grab a drink, maybe find somewhere quiet to hang out." I swallowed. "Yeah, that sounds good." "Okay," Noah said, his voice barely above a whisper. "Yeah, Mark, I'll do it." Tate wondered what that perv Mark had talked Noah into. He wanted to strangle Mark for preying on oldest companion. Tate felt a surge of anger, of protectiveness, as he watched Noah, as he listened to him agree to whatever it was that Mark was suggesting. He wanted to shout, to scream, to tell Mark to leave Noah alone, to never call him again, to never come near him again. But Tate didn't. He couldn't. He was frozen, his body stiff, his mind racing with thoughts Tate couldn't quite grasp, feelings I couldn't quite understand. And so Tate lay there, his heart pounding, stomach churning, as Mark and Noah made plans, as they set up their appointment. And as he listened to them, as he heard the eagerness in Noah's voice, the confidence in Mark's, he felt a strange, aching sensation in his chest. A sensation that felt a lot like betrayal, like loss, like heartbreak. Because Tate knew, as he lay there, as he listened to them, as Tate felt that strange, aching sensation in his chest, that he had lost Noah. Tate had lost him to Mark, to his own desires, to his own needs. When I hung up and placed the receiver back on the hook, the silence in the room was immediate and heavy. Tate was sitting upright in bed now, sheets pooled around his waist, eyes fixed on me, not sleepy, not relaxed, awake in the sharpest way. "You're meeting him," Tate said, not a question. "Yes," I replied, "he'll only be in town a little while." Tate's jaw flexed. "At night." "It's dinner," I said evenly. He scoffed, turning toward the window like he needed distance from the thought. "You don't do late-night dinners with people who don't mean something." I didn't answer because the truth felt too complicated to put into words. Tate ran a hand through his hair, frustrated, jealous in a way he didn't seem to know how to justify. "Just be careful," he muttered. "Providence isn't exactly friendly." I watched his reflection in the glass, the way his shoulders were tense, the way his concern didn't match his tone. "Good night, Tate," I said softly. He didn't respond right away. When he finally lay back down, he turned his back to me for the first time since we'd moved in and ignored me. And somehow, that hurt more than any argument could have. Tate didn't sleep after that, I knew, because he never moved the way he usually did, no shifting closer, no arm draped over me by instinct. He lay rigid on his back, staring at the ceiling as it had personally offended him. "Mark." The name pulsed through his head like a warning light he didn't know how to shut off. Tate replayed the call over and over, every word Noah said, every pause, every tone he couldn't quite place. 7 would be okay, too easy. Too casual. Noah never sounded like that with strangers. Noah sounded like that with people he trusted, with people he wanted. The thought made Tate's chest tighten painfully. He told himself it wasn't jealousy, that would be ridiculous. Noah was his and he was allowed to have friends and go on dates. They had lives outside each other. He knew that. He'd always known that, so why did it feel like something was being taken from him? He clenched his jaw, forcing his breathing to stay slow. He hated this part, the part where emotions showed up without permission, where logic failed him, where his body reacted before his brain could catch up. Mark wasn't a threat. He told himself that too, but Mark wasn't like the others. Mark was older, confident, comfortable in his own skin in a way Tate had never quite mastered. Mark didn't need Noah the way Tate did. Mark wanted Noah sexually, and somehow that felt worse. Mark was a pervert who wanted to fuck what was his, the warm, small body that was currently under his own. Tate turned his head just enough to look at Noah's silhouette in the dark. Noah lay still, pretending to sleep. Tate knew that trick. He'd watched Noah do it for years. "You didn't even look at me before you said yes," Tate thought bitterly. The realization hit him hard and fast. Noah hadn't asked him anything, hadn't checked, hadn't hesitated. Something sharp twisted low in Tate's gut. What if this was the beginning of something Tate couldn't compete with? What if Noah found a version of himself with Mark that didn't need Tate at all? The idea was unbearable. Tate sat up abruptly, dragging a hand down his face. He wanted to shake Noah awake and ask questions he didn't have the right to ask. "Do you like him? Does he touch you? Do you think about him?" Tate knew something Noah didn't. He knew he could never compete with people like Mark. Mark wanted things Tate could never give. Mark wanted to sleep with Noah, possess him, maybe even build a life with him. The thought made Tate's stomach twist with quiet disgust. A house, a relationship, domestic routines, shared holidays, some ridiculous fantasy where two people woke up next to each other every morning pretending love solved everything. It was nauseating. Tate leaned back in the chair, watching Noah move around the room, completely unaware of the war going on inside his head. Mark could offer that kind of life. Other men could too, men who wanted marriages, men who wanted futures that were tidy and socially acceptable, men who could hold Noah's hand in public and build a life people would admire. Tate couldn't do that, and he never would. What Tate could give was different, strange, incomplete. He could give Noah money if he ever needed it. He could give him travel, a world bigger than the one he grew up in. He could give him safety, a place to sleep where nobody would ever hurt him. He could give him companionship, long nights talking, quiet moments where neither of them had to explain themselves. He could give affection, but it wasn't the kind the world understood. It was platonic in ways that confused people, intense in ways that frightened them. It didn't fit into the categories people clung to so desperately, and Tate knew it wouldn't be enough forever. In a few years, Noah would graduate, he'd get older, the world would start whispering different things in his ear. Noah would start thinking about relationships the way normal people did. He'd see couples, homes, dinners, quiet mornings, maybe children someday. That soft domestic gravity would pull at him the way it did everyone eventually. Tate had seen it happen 100 times. People always wanted more. And when Noah got a taste of that Stepford wife version of happiness, the polished life with dinners and stability and socially acceptable love, Tate knew exactly what would happen. Noah would look back at him differently. Not with anger, not even with betrayal, just with the quiet realization that Tate was something temporary. Noah would look back at him differently, an experience, a strange chapter, an intense investment that never paid out the way a real life should. People abandoned investments like that all the time. Tate understood that kind of math better than anyone, and for a moment, just a moment, something sharp and almost painful moved through Tate's chest, because the truth was simple. Tate didn't want more, but the real problem was worse than that. He already knew Noah eventually would, and when that day came, Tate wouldn't stop him. He'd simply step aside like he always did, letting Noah go build the kind of life Tate had never wanted and never believed in. Lying in bed, Tate suddenly became painfully self-conscious. What if Mark already had Noah's heart? The question burrowed into his mind and refused to leave. He stared into the darkness, every possible outcome growing more terrifying than the last. What if he came back from class tomorrow and opened the dorm room door only to find Noah's side empty? No clothes were folded over the chair, no books are scattered across the desk, no half-empty coffee cup, no familiar scent lingering in the room. Just nothing. What if Mark invited Noah to dinner and somewhere between dessert and an easy smile convinced him to move in instead? It wasn't impossible. Mark had money, confidence, and a future to offer, things Tate wasn't sure he could compete with. The thought hollowed him out. He imagined unlocking the door after class, expecting to hear Noah's voice only to be greeted by silence. Noah's bed stripped bare, his closet is empty. Every trace of him was gone, as though he'd never lived there at all. Tate swallowed hard. Then it would just be him. An empty room. An empty bed. Cold sheets. Long nights with no one beside him. No sleepy conversations before dawn, no quiet laughter drifting through the darkness, no familiar warmth brushes against him in the middle of the night, no Noah. The realization squeezed at his chest until it hurt. For years, he'd taken Noah's presence for granted, assuming he would always be there when he came home. Now, for the first time, Tate understood how fragile that certainty really was. It wasn't the room he was afraid of losing. It was Noah. And the possibility that someone else might become the person Noah couldn't wait to come home to. When Tate was younger, the adults around them were always watching. Teachers, parents, older students, people in town, they would stare at him and Noah together with that same expression, curiosity mixed with suspicion. It didn't matter where they were, the hallway at school, the library, a diner, booth, walking home side by side. The looks followed them everywhere. Eventually the questions came. Are you two friends? Are you dating? Are you something else? Sometimes the words were polite. Sometimes they were whispered behind hands. Sometimes they were crude. But the truth was, the people asking didn't actually care what the answer was. They just wanted a label. Something neat they could stick on the two of them so it made sense in their heads. Lovers, friends, friends with benefits, brothers, anything would do as long as it fit into a box they understood. Tate hated that because none of it was true. He wasn't in love with Noah, not the way people meant when they said love. His feelings weren't romantic. They weren't the kind that wanted dates or kisses or a shared future. But they weren't exactly platonic either. The truth was stranger than that. Tate liked sleeping next to Noah, that was it. That was the thing people could never understand. He loved that nothing ever happened when they slept together. No expectations, no pressure, no performance, just the quiet comfort of another person breathing beside him in the dark. When Noah was there, Tate felt something he rarely felt anywhere else. Safe, accepted, respected. There was a strange peace in knowing Noah didn't want anything from him physically. Noah didn't expect romance, didn't push for intimacy, didn't try to take something from him, and Tate loved that. He loved sleeping beside someone who wanted no part of him in the ways everyone else seemed to want. As long as Noah believed that was enough, Tate knew he would stay. But Tate also knew something Noah didn't yet understand. One day Noah would grow up more. One day he would start noticing girls, or maybe someone else. One day desire would wake up in him the way it eventually woke up in everyone, and when that happened it would be the beginning of the end, because Tate couldn't give Noah what the world believed loved ones should give each other. Not romance, not marriage, not a life built together. He knew people talked about them. He'd seen the looks for years, the stares, the whispers, the gossip that followed them through school and town alike. Everyone assumed the same thing, that Tate was sleeping with Noah every night, that something secret and sexual must be happening behind closed doors. Nobody believed their relationship was innocent. Nobody believed it could be, but it was the truth. Tate didn't want to have sex with Noah. He wasn't attracted to him that way. He didn't want to marry him. He didn't want a shared domestic life. It wasn't like that at all. The only thing Tate wanted was Noah's body next to his in the dark where nothing happened and everything stayed the same. But lately Noah had started asking questions. Questions Tate had always known would come someday. Why do we have this relationship? What kind of relationship is it? Why did it start? Why does it keep going? Where is it going? Tate could answer those questions. He knew the answers perfectly well, but the answers were painful. Some of them would hurt Noah, and some of them described a truth Noah simply wasn't ready to hear yet. Worst of all, the real answer revealed something Tate had known for years but never said aloud. The thing Noah wanted to understand was the one thing Tate could never give him. Tate tried not to think about the shower on the bathroom floor or Tate's fit under his bed. The seizure, the ambulance, the sterile white lights of the emergency room, whatever the hell that visit to the ER had been. Every time the memory crept into his mind, he shoved it back down where it belonged. If Noah ever brought it up again or worse, told someone else, Tate wasn't sure what he would do. The thought alone made his stomach twist. It wasn't just embarrassing. In Tate's world, weakness was dangerous. If the wrong people heard about it, about him convulsing on a floor, losing control of his body, screaming for his bed warmer like a terrified child, it would spread. People talked. Information moved quietly through the social circles he came from. One whisper could turn into leverage, gossip, humiliation, and humiliation could be weaponized. Tate would rather the story disappear completely, still. He was grateful for one thing: Noah hadn't pushed the issue. Noah hadn't asked more questions after that night, because when Noah had started asking about their relationship, what it was, why it existed, where it was going, something inside Tate had locked up with a kind of raw, animal fear. Not irritation, not annoyance, terror, real terror. Since puberty, Tate knew Noah worshipped him, thought he was God in human form. Noah had a platonic crush on him for years, but for a moment, Tate had wondered if Noah had developed feelings. Real feelings. The kind that came with expectations, with hope, with ideas about romance or love or partnership. The possibility alone had nearly sent him into a panic. Not because Tate was secretly attracted to him, not because he was hiding some forbidden desire. It was something darker than that. People often assumed Tate hated homosexuals. That was really true, but his reaction came from somewhere much deeper, a kind of cold, instinctive fear that had been carved into him over years of watching the world he grew up in. Tate had seen too much. Rich men, powerful men, men who smiled politely in public, donated to charities, and shook hands with politicians, men who hosted elegant parties in houses full of marble and glass. And behind closed doors, some of those same men groomed people who couldn't defend themselves. Girls, boys, young people, naive kids. Tate had watched it happen more times than anyone should, sometimes quietly, sometimes openly enough that everyone understood but no one said a word. Money had a way of protecting monsters. That was the world Tate came from, and that was why he was so protective of Noah. Noah didn't see things the way Tate did. Noah moved through the world with a kind of innocent openness that made Tate uneasy. Some people might have called Noah naive, crueler people might have called him stupid, but Tate knew that wasn't it. Noah just didn't expect people to be dangerous, and that made him vulnerable. Tate had seen it unfold too many times to pretend it wasn't real. That was the real reason Noah's asking questions had scared him. Because if Noah started wanting more from their relationship, more closeness, more connection, more explanation, it meant Noah was starting to grow past the quiet, simple arrangement they had always shared. And once Noah started growing in that direction, the world would start noticing him differently. Men like the ones Tate knew would start noticing too. The thought made something cold settle in Tate's chest. Because protecting Noah from the world had always been easy when Noah stayed exactly where he was. But if Noah began stepping out into it, asking questions, searching for meaning, looking for relationships, Tate wouldn't be able to control what came next. And Tate trusted himself to handle almost anything, just not that. From the moment Tate met Noah when they were 4 years old, the rich boy had known something about him that other people would notice too. Noah was beautiful. Even as a child, it had been obvious: soft blonde hair, bright blue eyes, a face that seemed almost unfairly open and warm. People always smiled at him first. Noah was like a sunbeam of warmth and trusting kindness. Teachers lingered around him a little longer. Adults bent down to talk to him like he was something delicate. Noah looked like an angel and was sweet and kind, too. At 4 years old, Tate hadn't understood why it bothered him. By 14, he understood perfectly. 10 years of growing up beside Noah hadn't changed that first impression at all. If anything, Noah had only grown more striking with age. The blonde hair had darkened slightly, his features sharpened just enough to give him a quiet kind of handsomeness that people noticed the second he walked into a room. Tate saw it everywhere they went: cocktail parties, country club events, charity dinners where Noah stood beside him, awkwardly holding a glass of soda while everyone else drank wine and talked about investments. Tate watched the way people looked at him. Some of the wealthy men in Tate's social circle stared at Noah like he was a sirloin steak laid out on a platter. The looks were quick, but Tate recognized them immediately because he'd grown up around those men. Predatory curiosity hidden behind polite smiles. The women were no better. Older women at those same events would laugh too loudly when Noah spoke, touching his arm a little too long, making comments about how grown up he was becoming. More than once, Tate had overheard them joking with each other about how they couldn't wait until his 18th birthday. When the law stopped being an obstacle. When they could sink their claws into him without anyone calling it inappropriate. The thought made something cold twist inside Tate's chest every time. It didn't help that Noah had a small build. He wasn't fragile exactly. He had a little muscle from growing up active, but compared to the men who surrounded them at those events, broad-shouldered businessmen, former athletes, towering socialites, Noah looked compact, almost delicate. All it would take was one larger man or one tall, aggressive woman, and Noah wouldn't be able to defend himself if things ever turned ugly. By the time Noah was 18, his beauty had settled into something impossible to ignore. He possessed a boyish, almost delicate appearance that defied conventional ideas of masculinity. Standing around 5'9", he carried himself with a slim, compact frame, his build giving him an almost fragile quality. Even his legs were short in proportion to his body, making him appear younger than he was. None of it made him any less handsome. If anything, it made him unforgettable. For years, Tate had been convinced that someone else held the title of the most attractive man he'd ever seen. He never questioned it. Beauty to him had always been measured by confidence, symmetry, and the effortless charisma that turned heads the moment someone entered a room. Then Noah happened. At first, Tate couldn't explain what he was seeing. Noah wasn't striking in the same obvious way. His appeal was quieter, softer, almost impossible to define. The more time Tate spent with him, the more that quiet beauty revealed itself. It wasn't simply Noah's face or his figure. It was the way he smiled without calculation, the way he trusted people without expecting anything in return, and the way his gentle nature seemed untouched by the world's cruelty. Somewhere over the years, Tate stopped comparing Noah to anyone else. Without realizing when it had happened, Noah had become the most beautiful person Tate had ever known. His blonde hair caught the light in a way that almost seemed unreal, framing a face so open and sincere that calling him handsome felt inadequate. There was an ethereal quality about him, as though he belonged somewhere gentler than the world had allowed. People joked about angels having golden hair, but standing beside Noah, Tate found himself wondering if the comparison sold him short. Calling Noah an angel was an understatement. His appearance alone could stop Tate's thoughts in their tracks, but it was Noah's innocence that left the deepest impression. There was an unmistakable sweetness about him, a quiet kindness, a naivete that hadn't yet been extinguished, and a heart so genuine it made Tate fiercely protective of him. Tate had met attractive people before. He had admired beautiful faces, impressive physiques, and magnetic personalities, but no one had ever combined beauty, innocence, warmth, and quiet grace the way Noah did. To Tate, there had never been anyone else quite like him. Tate had met every kind of attractive person imaginable. There were men with sculpted physiques, commanding confidence, and the sort of rugged masculinity that drew attention the instant they entered a room. None of them reminded him of Noah. Noah's appeal lived somewhere else entirely. It was in his soft features, his golden hair, and his slender, gentle frame. His beauty wasn't built on strength or bravado. It was gentle, almost disarming, the kind that made people lower their voices around him without realizing why. There was also an innocence about Noah that time never seemed to erase. Even as he grew older, his expressions retained an openness that reminded Tate of the uncomplicated sincerity found in a young child, not in appearance alone but in the complete absence of cynicism. Noah greeted people with trust instead of suspicion. He assumed kindness before cruelty. He never looked for hidden motives because deception simply wasn't part of how he understood the world. There wasn't a cruel bone in Noah's body. That was why Tate found it almost impossible to stay angry with him. Whenever Noah made a mistake, Tate instinctively believed it had never been done out of malice. Noah wasn't calculating, he wasn't vindictive. He didn't nurse grudges or look for ways to wound people. Unlike Tate, who could be stubborn, prideful, and painfully aware of every slight, Noah lacked that instinct for pettiness. Hurting someone deliberately simply wasn't in his nature. After everything Noah had done for him, the patience, the loyalty, the compassion, and the countless moments of quiet understanding, Tate found himself believing there was very little Noah could do that would truly make him stop loving him. If Noah stumbled, Tate assumed there had to be a reason. If Noah disappointed him, Tate searched for an explanation before assigning blame. It wasn't that Noah was perfect. It was that Tate knew his heart. And once someone had seen that kind of goodness up close, it became almost impossible to believe the worst of him. No matter where they went, a country club gathering, a charity cocktail hour, some overly decorated ballroom full of people discussing investments and vacations, Noah stood out without even trying. The blonde hair, the really cute baby face, the quiet way he carried himself. It was effortless. Tate saw the looks. Everyone did. Noah was beautiful and Tate knew it. Everyone around Noah knew it too. Their why.